going on, guys? This is Burrs. I'm here with Nate Murr, the inventor of the GripStop, and I went ahead and asked to turn my gun down because I wanted to re-camouflage it. Nate has more experience in that department with his time in the military, so I came over here and we're going to talk about camouflage a little bit today, as well as actually painting my gun.
Right. Well, like everybody's quick to get a gun Cerakoted in a certain color if they want, and I guess like if you live, you know, down in Arizona, it would make sense for you to Cerakote your gun flat dark earth or coyote, because that's like your area of operations. It's where you live. It's where you're going to take the gun out to shoot, where you're going to go hunting with the rifle, whatever it might be. You don't really need to change the color, so having it Cerakoted in a pattern or a color to your environment, that makes sense, right? If you look at a lot of issued rifles used by Army Special Forces, the SEALs, MARSOC units, Scout Sniper units, Rangers, you're going to notice that most of their rifles are spray painted camouflage, right? Now, outside of a weapon system like the M110, which comes from the factory already Cerakoted or dipped in coyote brown or flat dark earth, almost every issued weapon is black. The problem with that is black stands out in its contrast to everything else in nature. Like, one of my favorite things to ask people is name 10 things that are black in nature. People like bears, coal, birds, that is all, right? So regardless, like, black does exist in nature, you know, in shadows and obsidian and different types of rock and all that kind of stuff, but it's not a predominant color that we see. So you gear yourself head to toe in multicam or ATAX or, you know, Pencot or whatever high-speed camouflage pattern you have, but here you are walking around with a big black diagonal stick in front of you, and that stands out. So the thing is that instead of Cerakoting the gun in one pattern or hydro dipping it in one pattern, what we do in the service is we'll paint the gun a base color, and then we'll go and we'll add our own camo scheme that's unique to that environment, right? So what that means is if I'm out in the desert, I'm going to repaint my rifle using more light colors like tan and khaki and light browns and that kind of stuff, right? Which might be universal enough to work in more arid, like subalpine, where it's kind of like desert meets like sagebrush and pine brush kind of stuff, right? If I'm in the rainforest and there's not a desert for 1,000 miles in any direction, I don't want as much light color as much as I want to go with more greens and maybe some darker browns just to break up the outline of the rifle. So there's no such thing as a universal pattern that works with everything. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, multicam works everywhere. It works decent everywhere, but it doesn't work perfect in every environment. That being said, I'm a big advocate of painting my rifle for where I'm at. What we use is we just use good old Rust-Oleum, you know, Krylon, rattle can stuff you get at Walmart or at Home Depot. The reason why is it's going to wear and it's going to look like shit. And for the people that are worried about their safe cleans, well, you probably shouldn't be painting your gun. If you're worried about the way your gun looks and not the way it actually works, then just stop watching this video right now. For people that want to give themselves a tactical advantage by having their rifle painted to match their environment, which is going to help, you know, evade detection, then go ahead and paint your gun. And it's not terribly complicated. A lot of people are very intimidated about painting their prized rifle, but once you paint one or two, it's really not that big of a deal. One of the things I could recommend is take like an old 50 cal can or a piece of gear like a PMag or something you really don't care about. Practice painting that before you skip to painting your rifle. The other thing is a lot of people forget about taping over their optics, the adjustments on their optics, the rear sight aperture, something I like to tape over, the front sight blade is something I like to tape over. Basically the stuff that's adjustable you want to tape over, and anything that has a lens. There's kind of like a famous story from my old unit where we got a bunch of really expensive Canon 5D cameras, right? Very expensive camera. These guys took the cameras and they're like, these are your cameras now, paint them, do whatever you want. Well, the Marines took the cameras and just spray painted without doing anything. They painted over the lens, they painted over the LCD screen. They basically just destroyed a several $1,000 camera by trying to paint it, but
right,
you know, it's
attention to detail.
Attention to detail, yeah, that's where it boils down to. Here are a couple different examples of rifles I've already painted. I have my Franken rifle here. I just changed out for this Parallax Tactical Free Float handguard. It was black, and a new upper receiver was black, so I just repainted the whole rifle. It had been previously painted. And what I did was, since I had painted using aluma-hyde, I just made sure the gun was degreased and I painted right over it. This is my LWRC SL, and what I did was, originally I degreased the gun thoroughly. That's one of the most important things to do, is thoroughly degrease your rifle and then degrease it again. For that, you can use like simple green, you can use rubbing alcohol, you can use like brake cleaner that evaporates, you know, whatever you need to do to get all that gunk and carbon and oil and stuff off if it's a rifle that has some use in it. So you can see there's kind of like a subtle difference between the two rifles. This rifle I went more light, and this one I went with a little more green. This is almost a little bit more of a stripy multi-cam pattern, and this is a little bit more of an arid, more desert pattern. So the rule of thumb is that I want to start out light because I can always go darker, right? Like if I start out in an arid environment like Arizona with this rifle, and the next thing you know I'm up in Montana where it's more green, I can just stripe it with some green spray paint that I bought at the hardware store on site, right? Alternatively, like when we'll deploy, like the paint's not going to last forever on your sniper rifle or your carbine. So when we deploy, we'll bring cans of Rust-Oleum. This stuff here usually has a picture of a Jeep or a duck boat on it, right? It's flat, matte, it's not reflective in any kind of way. We'll bring extra paint to paint to the environment if we move theaters or just the paint wears off. What I like to use is I prefer to use aluma-hyde, which is an epoxy-based paint that is a little bit more expensive than a can of Krylon. However, it's a lot more durable. Basically what I do is I do 3 coats of my base with aluma-hyde. I'll bake it on in between, and then what I'll end up doing is after that cures and it's dry, I'll go back and I'll add my pattern using other colors of aluma-hyde or supplementing aluma-hyde for different colors of Krylon, right? One of the cool things about it is if you go heavy with your aluma-hyde and you do like 3 solid good base coats and you bake it on real well and you do your pattern in Krylon and you go light with your pattern, you can wipe your pattern off with nail polish remover on a rag and you can change your pattern. So if I wanted to dust my rifle with some white for wintertime, I can do that. In the springtime when the snow melts off, I take that nail polish remover or very lightly with acetate and I can remove that without damaging the aluma-hyde. Any weapons finish is going to wear off. So you can see on Burrs' AK here around the wear points, like the screws and the sharp edges of the gun, you're always going to have that finish wear off. So it doesn't matter if it's Parkerized or anodized or Cerakoted, nothing lasts forever. So your finish is going to wear off your gun if you're actually using your rifle. If you're actually using your weapon, it's going to get wear. The nice thing about once you commit to painting your rifle, once that paint wears off, usually it's around like the magazine well, that kind of place, and the charge handle, you can always touch it up at your leisure. To me, it's like it has to be like heavily stripped off for me to touch it up. It doesn't really matter, right? It's a tool. It's not something that like is not going to get used. So just keep that in mind. What I want to do is after I degrease my rifle, I want to take my tape and I want to mask off anything sensitive. So what we did here was we started out with Captain Burris' T1. We took the blue painter's tape and we cut out that painter's tape to cover up the lenses of the optic. That way we're not going to get paint on the lens, just like the story I told about the camera and those Marines painting over LED screens or LCD screens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my adjustment. I have my little numbers on the side. I put a little ring of tape on that so I can still read my numbers and know what setting my optics on when it's all done and all painted up, right? I did the same thing to the front. Rubber does not like the paint, so anything rubberized you probably don't want to paint. So like the rubber butt pad of the CTR buttstock we taped over, just because if I do get paint on it, it's going to take forever to dry. It's going to be tacky for a while. Same thing's true. Like here's an MOE grip. You can see the paint didn't really stick to this very well. This is from when I painted it a couple times, you know, probably like a couple years ago. It was real tacky for like forever and a day, and then finally it dried and it just started flaking off. So color match your accessories to whatever scheme you want to go to if that's important to you. Otherwise, I would advise not painting it because it just doesn't work out. So that's basically it for your prep. You have everything degreased, you have everything masked off with painter's tape, and you have all your gear and accessories ready to go. So I have my rifle. We're going to end up painting this AK today, but I also have the optic, the GripStop that Captain Burr stole off my rifle, sling swivel, and the buttstock. All that's going to get painted separate. Now it's down to getting painted. Shake it faster. Faster!
If you think you shook it long enough, keep shaking.
Ever notice how like every Jason Statham movie where he has a permanent 5 o'clock shadow in every fucking movie?
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
Not that good.
Yeah. Make sure that doesn't make the outtakes.